Hey, what is up, guys? It is Sunday, meaning it's time for Star Wars Rebels recap yet again. Today we're looking at Star Wars Rebels Season 3, Episode 13, The Trials of the Darksaber. Now, in this episode, Sabine began her training with the Darksaber as she prepares to go home to Mandalore to rally her family and her friends in the fight against the Empire. So let's take a look at how this episode went down and what it sets up for the future of Star Wars Rebels.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
The blade feels lighter.
Now, in this episode, we saw Sabine begin her training with the Darksaber, thanks in part to Ben Rao suggesting it to Kanan that she be the one to take on the immense responsibility of wielding the Darksaber. This is because he believes that if she wields the Darksaber, she can rally Mandalorians back to the cause of fighting against the Empire and removing them from their once great, free, independent world. Now, of course, for somebody like Sabine and for the history she has with the Mandalorian people, because she's already hinted that, yes, she can go back to this planet because she doesn't have the trust of the Mandalorian people. So she was a bit resentful for this idea, but eventually she got behind it and she begins her training with the Darksaber. Kanan agrees to train her in the sort of the Jedi fighting styles, I guess you could say, because this does trace back to the first ever Mandalorian Jedi. He takes her under the ring, begins the training. Ezra comes along and Ben Rao also joins them later on, but at first it's just Kanan, Ezra, and Sabine. And they begin their training not with Darksaber and lightsaber, but with two staffs that Kanan and Zeb created a while back when Ezra was first beginning his lightsaber training. And Sabine is a bit taken back by this because she expects to be training with the Darksaber almost immediately because she does consider herself a well-traversed warrior, which she is because, of course, she is Mandalorian. But that kind of arrogance gets the best of her still, even when she's training with just simple bow staffs. She's still bested by Kanan, and that kind of enrages her. And she gets to a point where Ben Rao shows up and gives her those Mandalorian gauntlets, and she becomes kind of arrogant and cocky training with him and uses them against Ezra. And Kanan gets almost mad at this because he sees it as her taking it as a game. And Sabine says she's just trying to take over her opponent, and she uses the whip that is on one of those Mandalorian gauntlets to whip Kanan. Kanan gets incensed and slices it off with his lightsaber, takes her to the ground, and puts his own lightsaber at her throat, telling her the Jedi won the war in Mandalore, meaning that those tricks aren't going to work, and she basically needs to stop treating this as a game because honing the craft of a Darksaber, using it and its potential is serious, and she needs to take it serious. She sees this kind of as a wake-up call, but at the same time, kind of losing trust with Kanan. Now, she doesn't straight up say, no, I don't want to be here, but she gets to a point where she doesn't see how Ezra could train under Kanan, causing him a lousy teacher. The Bendu is actually in this area, and he sees Sabine and what she's going through. He doesn't interact with her, but he sees it, and I guess he can probably sense the anger and the frustration that's going through it, but also sense the underlying will to get this done, because I feel like deep inside, even during this moment, she still wants to be the wielder of the Darksaber because she knows that this could bring the Mandalorian people back and strengthen her relationship with her family, who she hasn't seen since she left Mandalore. As the episode progresses, Kanan speaks with Hera over the communicator and discusses what's going on with Sabine and how the training is progressing. And that's kind of an understatement to say because the training wasn't really progressing at all. And Hera basically tells Kanan, let her train with the Darksaber because that's the only way you're going to get through with her, because she is quote-unquote thick skull. I'm going to say that myself, but that's basically what they said. She's Mandalorian, and you're not going to get through with them if you give them simple means. You need to go straight into whatever you're about to do if you're going to make it through to her. So he allows her to train with the Darksaber, and when doing this, he kind of brings out what she's been hiding, because that's probably the only way she is going to be able to power through this training if she stops hiding the truth. So Kanan forces it out of her, and then you get the backstory reveal for Sabine, which is something I've been waiting for since this series has started, because we've also been getting bits and pieces of everybody else's backstory, and Sabine is kind of the only one who we haven't really seen. You got hints of it because, you know, her mother was looking for her. We saw that from the Imperial Super Commando episode, but we really haven't seen her. We really haven't seen anything else about that story arc since then. And now to get this was impressive. You find out that she's actually one of the reasons that Mandalorians weren't able to rise up and fight against the Empire, because she created the weapons that they used against her own people. She was a catalyst for the Empire's reign over Mandalore. And she left because she could not deal with the fact that she did that. And she expected her family to be behind her to support this decision, but they went on and joined the Empire themselves. So she has felt a great deal of guilt for that and has hasn't returned to Mandalore since then and has taken on the Ghost Crew as her family. But now we're getting to the point in time where she must go to Mandalore, confront her family, and bring them back with the Darksaber in tow, and also has to face any challenge that may come her way now that she possesses one of the more crucial artifacts in Mandalorian Jedi and even galactic history. Well, that's about it for this episode of Star Wars Rebels Recap. We're going to be looking forward to this arc coming maybe in the next episode. I'm not entirely sure as of yet, but stay tuned because we'll definitely be breaking down the next clip that comes out concerning next week's episode. And be sure to tell me down in the comment sections, what did you think about Trials of the Darksaber? What do you expect Sabine to do now that she is the rightful wielder of the Darksaber, and what else are you looking forward to as this story arc progresses? Be sure to leave a like and share this video with your friends if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to Marauders Guild for the latest and greatest Star Wars Rebels content on YouTube. And until next time, may the force with you all. Definitely see you in the next video.